Bear with us here as Johnny and I walk through Maple Leaf fan therapy with Randy in attendance. We are live Tuesday night, 10 to 10 here in Ontario, Canada, and the Maple Leafs are entering Game 5 overtime against the Boston Bruins of what's been a not a very well played series by the Maple Leafs, and maybe not the most effort shown either. Dude, you're a Leaf fan, but more so, and so I can get Randy involved with this, and I promise the Star Wars talk is coming. As a passionate sports fan, if you're a fan of a team that hasn't won in a very long time, they could have won once in your lifetime, but we're well into our 30s now. So maybe they won when you were much younger and they haven't won in 20 years. I don't know if any of you guys are in that position with your teams. I'm in that position with all my teams. So I really need the sports therapy. But in some cases, never in my lifetime, right? So most cases, actually. But like, how do you get through that mentally? Because like, obviously you see things where it's just like, one of the most famous sayings in the world is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Well, Johnny, you and I had a conversation in a little orange car back in 2018 on our way to Solo Weekend about Kyle Dubas becoming the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs and where it could lead and the we can and we will nonsense. And here we are, fast forward 6 years later. Fuck these guys.
Damn.
Feel better?
Dude, these guys could go in pot one in overtime or double overtime on some fluky shot towards the net that takes a weird bounce. But here's the fact. They can't generate normal offense in the playoffs. They can't. Other teams can. They can't. Why? Their best players don't want to get dirty. How do you live with that as a sports fan, fellas? Whether it's hockey, football, baseball, basketball, you see it as a fan, and it's not one of those cases where you're like, "Oh, well, Austin Matthews hasn't had playoff success, so he sucks." Or if you were, a Peyton Manning fan all those years, he didn't win a championship. You're not going, "Peyton Manning's the worst quarterback ever because he can't get over the hump or whatever." How do you guys get past those, barriers? Because hey, sports takes its toll. I've had Jade look at me before and say, "How is this fun for you?" Right? Like that's the life of some sports fans.
Sports is the definition of insanity. It really is. It's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's sports fans. That's sports fandom in a nutshell. Like it's more and more the game has gotten finesse, and I don't like that. I still like the grit, the hard nose, because you need that in the playoffs. Like regular season, yeah, okay. It's a different game in the regular season than it is in the playoffs. Every sport's like that. In every sport, the referees have a tendency to put their whistles away for the playoffs and not give you as many generous calls as you'd get in the regular season, because that's just the nature of playoff sports. It's grittier, it's harder, it's tougher, and it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to separate, the best from the not best. That's how you establish who with the exception of basketball, that's still a cheesy sport now, no matter where you watch it. Okay, I'll be honest, and I'll watch it. I don't watch it as much as I did 15 years ago, because it's a pansy sport. You blow on a superstar, you get a foul call now. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I just saw a goal. One of the goals that is basically going to help eliminate the Islanders, and
okay,
boy. Oh God! Hello, Vesatoskala.
It was not pretty.
Randy, how about you, man? Sports fan? Have you ever been in a position where your team has been bad for a very, very long time, and like maybe you're not one of those fans that think, well, if I had the job, I could make it better like that. But it's just a simple like, do something different? Like, how do you deal with that, knowing that you're just a viewer at the end of the day? You're a fan. You do not have control over what the team you're cheering for does with their roster.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm a Mets fan, so right there, I understand the lean years of going, what are we doing? So, but I mean, I like football. I like hockey. Obviously, as a Rangers fan, it's not like we've hoisted the cup anytime recent. So, though we've had decent teams, so this year is definitely a good team.
You did have Bobby Bonilla, though.
Yes, but good old Bobby Bonilla Day. Here's your $1 million for not having to do a damn thing.
The fact that guy got 2 teams to give him that contract is ridiculous.
Yeah, but then of course you look at Otani's contract and you go,
That's another reason. That's another ridiculousness.
And then
that's another level of ridiculous.
To find that the agent was crooked too, or whatever. Interpreter, sorry. Yeah. But still, that's a big deal in this case. And
but I don't know. I think part of it for me as a kid, because for the longest time I was like that asshole fan that would throw shit, get mad, get pissed off for some just dumb stuff that I eventually grew out of. But I would always play sports games and things like that, at least take my team to the championship game and just at least have that gratification. But for the most part, obviously my first love being football, I got to the point where I understood that sometimes if everybody isn't firing on all cylinders, you're gonna, or if you're having a bad day, you're just not going to win. And sometimes when the team doesn't have that chemistry, because I think that's half the problem, is you get a bunch of guys, like with baseball. Sometimes you just get a bunch of guys who are a bunch of individuals who are out there doing their own thing, but there's just no chemistry. There's no camaraderie. They're just out there playing the game. And in team sports in general, you have to have that. And for years, you just kind of look at it and just kind of go, what did you expect? You overpaid for some veteran who clearly was on his last leg and just was out there to get a contract rather than
don't
actually
call that Steve Cohen that way.
Well, I mean, if the shoe fits. But no, in all seriousness, it's just about tempering expectations as you get older. Once you finally kind of understand just the mechanics of the game, how it all works, how sometimes players get hurt, sometimes players just are off, it's just not their year, or you just end up making that stupid draft pick where the player just plain sucks and you're out of player for a year because they're an idiot. It boils down to just you can either get pissy over something you have no control over, or you can just be like, well, at least, it couldn't get any worse, right? And then, of course, as a Mets fan, I get to watch players drop to the injury bug and then our second half slide and all that crap. So I jinx myself in that sense.
Well, we're here with the Legacy of Star Wars as Johnny and I watch what very well could be the end of the Maple Leafs Shanna plan after a decade here at any moment. We have a big show in store for you tonight, previewing the Phantom Menace, which we're all going to go see this weekend, the Acolyte footage, the Mandalorian and Grogu, Johnny's favorite Star Wars movie title. We have that tonight. That is going to be a lot of fun because guess what? We're about to get the announcement for the first time in a very long time that a Star Wars movie has begun principal photography, and that announcement could come as soon as this weekend. All that and more on the Legacy of Star Wars.
For if one is remembered by a friend, one is never truly gone.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Greetings from the Galaxy 5 Highway. This is the Legacy of Star Wars podcast, brought to you by Fandom Empire. And as you can tell by the reaction here, the Leafs just scored in overtime. There will be another game. We're happy. We're excited.
As long as there's no goaltender interference. Because
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Stop talking! Stop talking immediately! Alright, guys. It's the Legacy of Star Wars podcast, brought to you by Fandom Empire. I am your host, Johnny, and it is truly a pleasure to be here with you wherever you're listening from. They got off the ice really quick, so they know there's no call. So let's go. Let's get this show. Okay, I'm lost. I threw my phone at the ground, so my notes are on the ground. Let me try to grab my phone, because it's kind of hard to do this without them.
All
right.
He grabs his notes. If you missed last week, we had this.
Oh, come on. I was having such a good moment here.
I'm impressed you came back after that last week.
Well, guess what's in store for later tonight? I told you there was a surprise, and there is.
Oh, no.
All right, let's get down to business. If you guys like the content, if you enjoyed the show, if you like watching us, head down below, click that thumbs up, click the subscribe button, all notifications, everything. You can see our lovely faces every Tuesday night, as well as all the other offerings here on the channel. Monday nights tonight in Haddonfield. Legacy of Smallville. Did you guys record?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. So recording has started on the Legacy of Smallville, but we're not closer to getting that first episode up. But that's fine. Process has started. That's the important thing.
Well, I think what has happened, like, just to be completely transparent about the whole thing, is we made a judgment call because we don't want to do this just off memory, even though we rewatched Smallville and came to an ending on it a few months ago. But we want to rewatch the episodes, but we also need to rewatch the Talkville episodes that Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling do when it's just Jade and I doing an episode, because we're going to be covering a little bit of that on the show too. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to record, plan to meet up for a recording session, record 3 or 4 episodes, take a break for a few weeks, record 3 or 4 episodes, rather than trying to MacGyver the kids into an early bedtime and having time to
It's a much
record.
easy process to navigate
so,
under the circumstances.
You bite the bullet one night, you stay up late, and you do that.
Smart plan. And of course, if you want to contribute another level, head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Fandom Empire, where you can be one of our sponsors. Get your name flashed in the credits at the end. And of course, we love all our sponsors. All of them. Every single one of them. And our patrons as well, obviously. Alright, guys. Let's get down to business. Let's start things off. Obviously, Mandalorian Grogu, like Sean said in the pre-show, if you were here for that, principal photography is getting ready to start. This is a big step. This is the first non-episodic title to start filming since the anthology kind of fell flat on its face, if we're being honest. So this is a big step for Star Wars. Could be starting as early as next week. Obviously, on-set pre-production is well underway, so it's just a matter of time
ready
now
to shoot, not just they're not, still, there might be some very minor last-minute preps, but they're ready for a team to go out there and shoot even as early as tomorrow. So I believe, I don't want to say for sure because it's not for certain, but given what Bespin Bulletin has covered in making Star Wars, it was also in production as a weekly or monthly recently. Don't be surprised if you're attending a Phantom Menace screening on May the 4th, which Johnny and I will be doing, that if you look down at your phone that day, you get the good old picture of a Star Wars movie set, and it says The Mandalorian Grogu now entering production. Here's an interesting tidbit that I heard today. That might not be the title of the film.
Oh, thank God.
But rather the title throughout production, much like when Solo went into production It wasn't Solo a Star Wars story. It wasn't just Rogue One either. It wasn't The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or The Rise of Skywalker. It was just Episode 7, Episode 8, Episode 9. I'm not saying it's not going to be the title, because in terms of marketing, they might stick with that, right? So people know what it is. But they're at least leaving the door open for a potential different title, which I think is important. But I'm excited and I'm not excited, fellas, because, like, did we ever think it was going to be this long again before we got, Star Wars movie, now in principal photography, or now begun principal production? I guess the last time would have been, I'm going to assume they started The Rise of Skywalker in late 2017, early 2018. So, like, we're talking 6 years. That wasn't supposed to ever happen again. And it has. So, fellas, just your feeling on, us soon getting word that not a movie that might come, it may come, but a movie that we are, in fact, finally going to see. Now, whether it's good or not, we'll discuss that. But general feelings on another Star Wars movie finally entering principal photography.
I mean, I think obviously it's about time we're moving forward with this, because we needed to move forward with this. Outside of episodic films, they have been more missed than hit from sort of that critical reception stance, from that financial stance. They have been more hit than miss. So you need something that's going to right the ship, as it were, and this is probably in all of Star Wars right now, this is sort of the one thing that's sort of, I don't want to say united, but it's brought the fan base back together, and it's brought Star Wars back into the cultural zeitgeist, which is obviously important. And Grogu does that. He has that name appeal. He has that mass appeal that they're going to be, guys aren't going to have to work as hard to sell their girlfriends, spouses, significant others to go and see a Grogu movie than they are a regular Star Wars film, because what's Grogu? You love Baby Yoda. It's a Baby Yoda movie. We can go see that, right? It's not going to be as hard or difficult a thing for guys to sell that, for fans to sell that. And that's important. That's hugely important, because it also brings the kids into it as well, which is something that, to a large degree, I think all of the films in the Disney era haven't been able to do. They haven't captured the children. They haven't got the kids involved in this, which is something that everything under Lucas had done. With the Ewoks in the original trilogy, and as reticent as I am to say it, the Gungans of the prequel trilogy. It got the kids involved, and that's something that they didn't really do in the sequel trilogy, and obviously none of the anthology films did that either. They tried with the Porgs, but that didn't hit. They weren't as lifelike, I guess you'd say. They were clearly just there. They didn't capture the audience the way they'd hoped. They were the closest they came, but they didn't pull the kids in. And even BB-8, which was probably their best opportunity to do that, did more for the adults with his mannerisms and actions than it did for the kids, because you can't very well explain that thumbs up isn't always a thumbs up to the children.
Big difference, though, too, right, between the Porgs being like funny little practical creatures that they used on set to BB-8, who's a little more central, right? He's one of the sidekicks, one of the droids, to, hey, here's our new Yoda, right? Like, so, again, from marketing and money and licensing, I get it and I understand, but I asked Zach this question yesterday on our recording at House of the Empire, which will be available tomorrow for everyone. Very simply, are they making the wrong movie? Let's not forget that there was supposed to be a Mandalorian season 4. And that season is essentially becoming this movie. It's not like they sat down and said, we're doing a Mandalorian movie. Let's start the writing process and we're going to go through several drafts of a movie. No, they started this thing as a season. and then condensed it down, and now have changed route based off of certain fan reaction. And I feel like I've kind of lived this story before, and I'm a little worried. And, I don't want to be that guy that's cynical, but I also want to sit here and ask the most positive of Star Wars fans to look at themselves in the mirror and ask yourself if Mandalorian season 3 is anywhere close to the quality all around as the first two. And to me, the answer is it's not even on the same stratosphere because of how rushed that production was.
Oh, I could have said no right off the bat because I've been like, I wouldn't have been held back at all. Now, were there some cool things? Of course. But it just felt like you said, it was rushed. They wanted to just roll it out. Let's go. That money-making machine. Let's go. Now, with the movie, am I excited for, the fact that knowing we're getting a movie's going to start production soon and we're going to get it. We're going to go into theaters. We're going to have that experience of getting to watch this on the big screen. Hell yes, 100%. I can't wait. Obviously, we all hope for the name change. We know it can't be just Mandalorian Grogu because I'm going to be a little worried if they stick with that. But like Johnny said, at least with Grogu, you're going to draw people. You're going to we have never had the opportunity to see Grogu on the big screen. That's pretty exciting in and of itself, just because that will bring the people. It's kind of like Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come. Well, it's like show Grogu and they will come. So it's what's really funny is if Grogu was even a part of that, I already know. Even just if it was something different. The Mandalorian did enough in seasons 1 and 2 that would have had me excited for a Mandalorian movie, with or without Grogu. So it's just because I like the character. I like his arc. I like how he's grown. Granted, would he have grown as much without Grogu? Probably not, but there's still character development there regardless. And that's really important to me. So I'm really hoping what we get overall when they say, here's our first teaser is, since we're going to get season 4, we're not getting season 4, and I don't think season 3 really left us enough to make it deserve a season 4, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it felt like a series finale is what it felt like. It's like Din and Grogu just kicking back, chilling, doing whatever. Okay, that's great. Why does this feel like an ending? So now that we know what Filoni has in store to a degree for where we're heading in his vision, now it's time to have a movie where it sets it up to get Din, Grogu, and the other Mandalorian involved as well. And I think that's what we're going to get.
Dustin says 3 felt more like Book of Bo-Katan, which I'm fine with. And I'm fine with more of Katie Sackhoff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a Pedro Pascal issue. That is they wanted to take the show in a different direction and have him there more, but they were already sunk into a different deal. There's been behind the scenes drama with it. He's just going to be a voice there. The Last of Us has him right now, and he's signed up for a bunch of other different shit. The Gladiator sequel, he's in the middle of filming right now.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. There's another one too, another big one that he's just signed up for. So like, if he's in the movie, it's going to be brief. It's going to be, he had one day to get there. The mask is staying on.
It's going to be the scene when he took the mask off at the end of, was it season 1?
Yeah, it'll be something very reminiscent to that for sure. Or even, honestly, the end of season 2. Obviously, we get the full episode where he has most of the mask off, but the very last episode of season 2, we're at the end, when Grogu leaves. Yeah, it's going to be something like that. That's just the box they've put themselves in, which is a little unfortunate because in terms of mainstream audiences, they want to put a face to that character, that hero, that villain, etc. The mask is cool, but it only goes so far. The mask always, and I mean always, comes off at some point in time, regardless of the villain. You name it. Name the villain, and the mask has probably come off at some point. So it binds them for sure. I just hope that this isn't we've found this fun little Mandalorian story to tell with Grogu and Din, and it's 2 hours, and they're on this mercenary adventure, and we get a couple of cool dog fights or whatever, and a space battle, maybe a Darksaber fight or what. Actually, does Bo have the Darksaber now? Did Din give it to her?
It's been destroyed.
Did it get destroyed? I can't remember.
At the end of season 3, it got destroyed in her battle against Gideon.
Did it? Okay, I couldn't remember. But like, cool, that'd be a fun little adventure popcorn flick to see on the big screen. But this can't be that. That can't be your first Star Wars movie since The Rise of Skywalker. And honestly, if you want to go in terms of public perception, Rise of Skywalker, dud. Solo, box office failure. Last Jedi, even though some people have come around on it, even I've come around on it a lot, divisive as hell. The last 3 outings for Star Wars at the cinema are not good. And you know what? You're always going to have the divisiveness. So I'm not going to count The Last Jedi in that. But you need a story worth telling on the big screen. This has got to bleed into what is going on in Ahsoka. This has got to lead into the Filoni movie. There has to be stakes, not for the entire movie necessarily, but you get to that third act, and it's got to lead to something much bigger.
Give us a cliffhanger. Give us something that'll lead into what's going on in Ahsoka, essentially. Like, where it's like, well, now that we dealt with this, we got bigger fish to fry, essentially, and just kind of leave it on that. No real ending. Just okay, it's time to continue into the next big thing, which is what the galaxy is getting ready to deal with in terms of Thrawn and Ahsoka.
But that's not a problem. If there's one thing we've learned in the last little bit is that cinema can handle the cliffhanger if you do it right. And I obviously it's a different phenomenon, a different level, but look at Infinity War. Like, you ended that first part with the snap and half the world disappears before your eyes. The stakes were high, and then of course, they filled in some other not so good stuff in between, but by the time you got back to that, those two parts tell a full story, can work in this type of environment, because you have to put Star Wars in the same environment as the comic book movies. You have to. They're sci-fi, they're fandom films, so they all kind of fit under that big umbrella, and it showed that fandom can handle that if you do it right, if you tell a good enough story. And that's the important thing here, is telling a good enough story. And while I don't mind so much the idea that they're taking what was basically a season of television, condensing that down into, a 2.5 hour film or whatever this is going to end up being, 2 hour and 40 minutes, somewhere in that range, it's not a problem for me, because it does take away some of that sort of filler stuff that you get in a season of TV that we've gotten, with The Mandalorian. There's always been at least 1 or 2 episodes that you look back on and go, well, if that didn't happen, the story wouldn't be lost for it, and I don't mind eliminating that stuff for this movie, because it condenses it, it shrinks it down, it gives you a chance to add, it gives you a chance to make your set pieces bigger, put more emphasis on them, and as long as you have a story that you feel serves the narrative well, serves the universe well, and that you follow up on, it's going to be successful, because we know that, the fan base is invested in these characters. Not just, the Mandalorian, but obviously, like we've said, Grogu as well, is invested in by the entire globe, basically. So as long as you tell a good, interesting story with these characters and stretch out the story into the next film, it doesn't need to be a direct, cliffhanger that builds your next, but you need to build that bigger threat. Look back at the original Marvel movies where you were building that threat and you were building the background and you had Sam Jackson being that sort of linchpin that allowed you to wrap all these stories up together and see the connections and see the threads. As long as you have somebody filling that role and you can do it. Now, it's going to be tough because I think the guy that was most likely to fill in that role was probably Grief Karga. And obviously, you can't pull on that thread anymore. He can't be that anymore. But
To me,
gonna have
sorry, if I can interject here for a second, I know we've been long on this topic, but with him gone, like that is I don't want to see he's there, you just never see him on screen crap. That Star Wars needs to stop doing that. I'm not saying recast, but put someone else in that position in the story then.
I think you're probably, this is just my speculation, is I think the opening of the film you're going to see the Enclave get bombarded. And it's going to be very obvious that he's dead, and that might even be your stakes for what gets him involved in this.
Yeah, I figure that's probably something they would probably do. Here's the thing: you could easily use Captain Teva as your linchpin, since he has the ties of the rebellion, the New Republic and things like that. And he's dealt with Din before, but he's also dealt with, Ahsoka and Hera, and so it's not like he's a not known quantity in the galaxy. He could be part of that.
I mean, I'm sure you'll see Captain Teva. I don't know if I've ever actually heard it. But either way, I think I think another guy that's sort of sitting on the sidelines that do that, I think, is also Timothy Olyphant. I think his character could step in that role because he sort of did step in that,
well, he was supposed to. He was supposed to be one of the leads in Rangers of the New Republic.
Exactly.
So
I think he's a character that you could do, and obviously he has the chops to carry it on. Which,
you need some movie stars in this movie, people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but you cannot run around with puppet Grogu and Din with his face covered and expect the general audience to go, okay, so who's in this film? We spent nothing on our cast, because let's be real here, they don't spend much on their cast on the Mando shows or the Book of Boba Fett shows. They don't. And Oliphant would be, he's a star, right? Like, so, and I mean, Cobb Vanth, narratively speaking, has been pretty good.
He's a known quantity to a whole. Like, sure, seeing Captain.
I mean,
Teva,
is he Raylan from Justified in the show? Yeah, he basically is, but
but that's fine, but it just, he fits more in that everybody knows who he is type role that you can slide into this, where I love Captain Teva and I love Paul Sun Hyung-lee. I'm a Canadian. I've been watching him on my TV for the better part of 15 years. An hour close to it. Like, I mean, it's been at least close to 10 years, since the Kim's Convenience started. I love that show. I think the guy's hilarious. But, if you don't fit in that sort of circle of people who know who he is, he doesn't have that cachet as sort of that carryover guy. Because you need someone recognizable. You need someone that everyone's going to be like, oh, that's blank, blank, blank. Or insert name here. You need that recognition, and pretty much everybody knows Timothy Olyphant from something or other. He's one of those guys that you see in a lot of things, and if I'm being honest, the guy has a record of success. I can't, off the top of my head, think of anything he's been in that's like, oh, that was dog shit. So if you know him, it's probably from something you enjoyed.
I love the dude. So, I mean, no complaints here.
I think he's a great actor, but we could bring Fennec Shannon as well. Like, if Din goes to Tatooine for any reason, there's potential of bringing her in as well. So it's not like we couldn't get star power in general.
I mean, to be fair, she's not a star, and like even Timothy Olyphant, he's a star on the small screen, and small screen and big screen stars cross over more now than they ever did before. But even Timothy Olyphant is not a big movie star. He does not have a massive
No.
track record of big movies. I'm wondering who's the movie guy they're going to go get, because I'm telling you right now, if this thing looks and feels like a Disney Plus production that's just been put on big screen and marked down to 2.5 hours,
Mhm.
good night. You are right back where you were at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and you are looking at a hard fucking reset and us sitting here on our hands for several more years while they figure out what to do next.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
run
There's
that
going
kind
to
of
be
risk.
some.
That is what's on the line here. People can
Yeah.
not believe it all they want, but it is. Take a look at what Disney's doing. Take a look at what everybody else is doing. If you don't succeed, if you do not make these things successful, they will not be made.
Which I think is the right thing. It's the right decision, obviously, from a corporate perspective. But you're absolutely right. There is going to be somebody in this that people are like, oh shit. Yeah, and who that's going to be, I don't know. Who that's, what role they're going to take on inside the universe, I have no idea. But it's going to be interesting to see who fills that role, and they may very well take on this role of being the movie person that ties the universe all together and fits together in such a way that makes it work. But all right, we spent enough time talking Mandalorian Grogu, so let's move on to the next topic. And right now, we've talked about this film ad nauseum over the last few months for multiple different reasons, but one thing we have sort of discussed has been sort of strife, possible turnover, things changing within the universe. But as of right now, Stephen Knight is staying on board with the script for the new Jedi Order Rey saga that is yet to come. So does that make you feel better about this project going forward, or how does it change your does it change your opinions in any way about this film now?
Go ahead, Randy.
It just, to me, it means we're one step closer, and I know Daisy Ridley's, been pretty, excited about, bringing this character back to life, but obviously you need all the bits and pieces before you can actually start making a film. And the fact that someone's saying, hey, I'm going to stay on and I'm going to finish writing this thing and finally get everything going, it's one step closer. So we know that this movie is that much closer to getting actually started. Is it still 2-3 years off? Probably, but it's better off than it was yesterday. So, that's a small win, but a win's a win.
John?
Sorry, I just had a pop-up come up. We have a not Star Wars related, but those who are eagerly awaiting the next Fear Street film. There's a little behind-the-scenes thing that was released today. They're filming, so that's cool. And that one's the Prom Queen Stein book, I believe. Could be wrong on that, but look, I've never seen Peaky Blinders, so I don't know if it's my thing. I suspect it's not, but people rant and rave about it. To me, the encouraging thing is there hasn't been more turnover. That is what I would take as the encouraging thing, which would also lead you to believe he's probably been working on it all this time, which lines up with the rumors that Daisy Ridley flat out came out and said she's going to read a script for the movie. I believe it's in May. So I think that lines up, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see this thing come December 2026.
I agree with you both. It is definitely a reassuring sign that things are moving forward properly. The steps are being taken to get this thing in the right frame, in the right place, and that is definitely reassuring news in light of all of the turnover and chaos that essentially has been every project under the Disney banner as far as Star Wars film goes. So that's reassuring, because this one doesn't have the entrenched team of Filoni and Favreau already, in the trenches like you have with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So I don't necessarily count that in light of the other projects, because this is being spun from whole cloth. It wasn't previously created or done or anything like that. Like obviously the Mandalorian Grogu. It's reassuring for certain that this project is moving forward at pace and in the proper manner.
I'll tell you what, and I think most people that listen or watch this show or have known me over the years wouldn't believe this, but if you asked me which film I'm more excited for, my answer would be the new Jedi Order film, if it actually comes out. Simply because it's 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker, which means, in terms of the timeline that we know, clean slate.
It's the same reason we're excited for the Acolyte.
Yeah.
It's untapped potential. You can tell whatever story you want in these eras where you don't have, clearly defined things that you have to stay within, which is good. Now, obviously, they had that with the sequel trilogy, but in reality, they, turned that into a giant figure eight of chaos that it didn't. It was a roundabout of reactiveness that didn't need to be that way. So it's exciting to not have any sort of preconceived notions to play with in either of those projects. All right, let's move on to the next one. June 4th is set to be a busy day in the Star Wars universe. Star Wars Hunters, which is, of course, a game, mobile game, for lack of a better phrase, also being released on the Switch and in the app stores on June 4th. Are either of you even remotely in any way for this, like up for the, like does this tickle your fancy? Are you pre-registered to play this game on June 4th to download to your smartphones or your Nintendo Switch or whatever? Or is this just a, hey, great, the kids are gonna love this thing for you?
I was excited at the prospect of this game when we talked about it on a different iteration of the show way back in 2020. It's 2024 now. The game already soft launched once in 2021. Okay. So that being said, it I don't know, man. It, like, you're trying to do your best to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and I know I'm coming across as a massive negative Nancy right now. Sorry about that, guys. But like, this is something that was supposed to come out years ago, not 1 year ago, not 2 years ago, nearly 3 years ago. And was idea at the time they were advertising it as Star Wars Fortnite during the production, which to me, hey, I was on board with it. I was open to something, like that. Here we are 3 years later. It's changed a bit. It's only on Switch and mobile. No, thank you. Maybe if it goes on sale wait, is it free to play?
That's free to play.
Free to play? Okay, well, might I try it out at some point because it's free to play? Probably. But this is just more, hate to say it, more of the same from Star Wars gaming, which is not good.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about this, a few years ago, I was like, okay, cool, we'll see what happens. And then I thought I heard something about a launch, and then I heard nothing about it. So I assumed it was a failed, dead, never coming out. And then, of course, you guys corrected me on that. And I watched the trailer earlier, and I went, "You showed me nothing. You did absolutely nothing to get me even remotely excited about the game. You showed me no gameplay footage. You showed me nothing about what the game is about. It was just basically one whole, basically, cutscene. That's all it was. That's not enough to get me excited to want to play this game. Now, if the reviews come out and it's at least semi-decent, sure, I'll give it a shot and kind of see what happens. But I've seen what happened with Fortnite on the Switch, and let me tell you something, it didn't translate very well. So it's either that or mobile. That's a tough sell. You'd have been better off putting it on the other consoles as well. But it is what it is. We'll see how it does when it launches, and if it does well enough or gets decent enough reviews, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I could care less. I couldn't care less. Let me say this properly. I could not care less about this project, and it coming out in a little over a month and a half. Like, that's nice. That's great. I'm not gonna be downloading it. I'm not pre-registered. Like, it's not. I'm not the audience for this game. This is not my game. I will not be playing it. If I want to play a Star Wars game, I'll just reload Galactic Heroes. I think. Yeah, Galaxy of Heroes, whatever it is, and play that, which I haven't played in.
Interesting that you said that game and not a different game.
For mobile games? Now, kindly. I'm talking mobile games. Thank you very much, sir.
I needed a break from Galaxy of Heroes. The grind just got to me, even though I
Eventually, it
played for
got
like
to me
6
too.
years.
Yeah, I played it for a long time. I pre-registered for that one, and I was there at the beginning. But no thank you. But,
I unlocked unlocked Din in his Beskar with Grogu, and I was like, okay, I've reached the apex of what I'm willing to grind out for.
I didn't even do
And
that. I don't even think I've played it since before the Mandalorian even launched. It's been that long.
Let's just put it this way: they just added the Gungans, and Jar Jar Binks is a new legendary hero that they just pushed out. That's how hard pressed they are for characters right now.
And uninstall. I don't know. Maybe killing Jar Jar might be a good reason for me to actually go back and play.
I like that comment.
A Marvel Snap game in the Star Wars universe. I think that would be fun too. I love playing Snap.
They actually used to have something similar called, I think it was called the Force Collection, where basically it was a card collecting game, but when you made your teams, it was all based on leveling up the cards and pairing up with leaders and things like that, and different abilities. I was kind of surprised it didn't last as long as it did, but it was fun for what it was.
There was one a few years ago that I enjoyed that was more like almost Shadows of War-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was fun to play for a while back in like 2018, 2019.
They had a few games that were fairly decent. They just kept shutting the servers down. So
Yeah.
Can I interrupt here for a second? I know we're running behind. We got a short time some of these topics, but this right here is an example of a media outlet trying to incite divisiveness amongst the fandom and get people going. Like, there's just absolutely no fucking need to even attempt to word it in this way. And this is from Screen Rant. While George Lucas's idea of balance in the Force was when you go to the dark side, it goes out of balance, the Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland has a slightly different perspective, saying there is no light without darkness, no good without bad. So they're trying to rile up the Lucas, the pro Lucas fans here with this. But in reality, if you fucking listen to any audiobook, read any book from the expanded universe, played Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2, or here's an idea, maybe even watched the Mortis arc in Clone Wars that George Lucas himself has a hand in. They go over all this. There's no light without dark. But this tries to pin the showrunner up as if she's going against what George Lucas. It's so fucking stupid. Pardon my language, but like this is why we get what we get in fandoms.
Well, you've made two major mistakes here. One, this is a sourced from Total Film, and two, it's a post from Screen Rant. Those are your two mistakes right there.
Total Film is an excellent source for information. They're fantastic.
It is, and then it's the lens put on by Screen Rant that makes it the problem.
This is why we can't have nice things. Shit like this.
Screen Rant is, in my opinion, the most clickbaity of what is the major, air quotes, places to go. I can't. I see their headlines, and like 90% of them are are clickbaity or trying to make you argue with somebody. But I digress. All right, guys, we've got 2 more topics to get you before Game of the Week, so let's get down to business here. There is a hope that Ahsoka Season 2 will launch late 2025, meaning we'd get 2 series, Andor Season 2 and Ahsoka Season 2, all within the calendar year of 2025. Is that concerning to you? Is that exciting to you? Like, what are you at with the idea of seeing Ahsoka that soon?
To me, it's not soon. Like, the fact is, if we don't get it till November, December 2025, that is more than 2 years in between series. And I know you might reference something like the stuff like the the Sherlock overseas or whatever, but we're not overseas. We're in North America, and a lot of this is directed at kids and young teens to try to get them on board, and asking them to wait 2+ years in between seasons or more is just ridiculous. It does not work. People lose their attention. They move on to other things. For me, if it's anyone but Dave Filoni, I go, oh, because we heard how recently it was greenlit. But because it's Dave Filoni, I assume he already knows the story that he wants to tell.
I'm pretty confident he probably already had it outlined in his head. That exactly where he was going with this.
But
it was just...
If I can interrupt for 1 second and then hand it off to you. The late Ray Stevenson, obviously massive kink in that, but now you have the kink of it's not Mando season 4, it's a movie, and what is going to come first in the timeline. So we're not going to see the Mandalorian and Grogu until May 2026. That means there's time to see Ahsoka season 2 in late 2025 or even early 2026. So which the Mandalorian Grogu obviously filming much further along in their production than Ahsoka season 2. But is that going to happen before or after Ahsoka season 2? And how confusing is that going to get in terms of timeline stuff? And that is where I think there's a problem, because I'm really worried about them boxing themselves into something. But this is the way they've chosen to go. So hope for the best. Randy?
Yeah, I mean, I think Filoni always had an idea of where he wanted to go with season 2. It obviously with Ray Stevenson, that kind of did throw a monkey wrench into things. Honestly, I really hope they just take their time, find someone that could give the same type of gravitas to the performance. Because, we've talked about it, it seems like in length, what doesn't matter what character it is. No one should be irreplaceable. As much as the purists want to be like, no one can be Luke Skywalker, but Mark Hamill, let's be real. Hey, if it worked, it may sound cheesy, but hey, if it worked for Harry Potter, it can work for Ahsoka. Because, think about it, Dumbledore.
Okay, I was just going to say, are we referring to the franchise or the character? Because there's only been one Harry Potter.
Well, you know what I mean. It's like Richard Harris passed,
okay.
and they bring in Michael Gambon. So
okay,
and both actors did a phenomenal job.
Okay, yes, absolutely.
So I feel like
one better than other in my opinion, but I digress. That's because I'm a reader of the books, and I'm still not over the Goblet of Fire yelling at Harry, because that's not what the book says, and it would have been far more better if he had just been actual Dumbledore, not screaming in a child's face.
Can I also just say something, just since we've gone to Harry Potter? Well, what's the little gremlin's name again?
Little gremlin?
Colby or something like that.
I mean, Dobby? The house elf?
So let me tell you, I didn't see Harry Potter for the longest time.
Sacrilege.
Jade finally showed me them. I think we went through all the movies in like a week or something. Maybe even shorter time than that. I don't know. But let me tell you, the hype around that character before I had seen the movies, and then when I watched the movies, the little bastard dies.
Thanks for opening that wound.
This does nothing for me. Am I supposed to care about this? Is this supposed to be this sappy, awful moment that we can't get over? And you know what? I ended up liking these movies way more than I ever thought I was going to. But that moment, I just went, yeah, I'm no selling this. This is not sad to me. Good, get him out of the way. He's just kind of in the way.
The look on Johnny's face.
Right there with Jar Jar, in my opinion.
I can't with you. I can't. Oh my!
I'm being serious. I'm being dead serious right now.
See, Johnny, I think he doesn't have the context of the books like we do. Because
I do not. I do not at all.
So there's a lot more with Dobby in the books than they put in the movies. There's a lot they had to cut out. So I can understand with only having.
I certainly understand the Harry Potter diehards from both sides having way more.
You're gonna tell me next Hedwig dying didn't hurt?
Your silence is deafening.
He's trying to wrap his head around who's Hedwig again?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I'm not kidding. Have we seen all the movies twice or just once and then some of the other ones the second time? Twice. Okay, I've seen them all twice. I like the later ones better than the earlier. Like some of the earlier ones are decent, but the last 4 or 5 compared to the first couple, I really enjoyed. And John Williams, again, he's obviously still in his heyday at that point, and production quality on those movies is fantastic.
Well, and you talk about cliffhangers, definitely in between Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, you had a really good stopping point with Voldemort finding the Elder Wand, knowing that things were getting ready to ramp up. So we, like we were talking about cliffhangers earlier, there's a good one to reference.
I seen a video one time, I'm sure it's still out there, of whose death affected you more. That dude's from Harry Potter, the gremlin dude, Dobby or whatever.
He is an elf. Stop calling him a gremlin.
Or Johnny Cage from the second Mortal Kombat movie. Like, it's Johnny Cage. They killed him in the first 2 minutes of the movie. How could they do that?
I watched that movie and went, what the fuck is this garbage?
I went, you sons of bitches.
I can't with this right now. I can't.
We're just getting started. Not really. We got about maybe 10 or 15 to go, but yeah.
This is painful to me.
I thought the headset was coming off.
It almost did. Johnny Cage. Come on, my God.
You a Johnny Cage guy? I seem to remember you being a Johnny Cage guy.
Sure, but those movies were trash even in 1995.
Hey, the first one was halfway decent. The second one was trash.
Yeah, the second one was god awful. I couldn't believe what we were watching. The first one, though, I remember a lot of people being into that.
I really liked the first one.
Yeah, they were both bad, just like the Street Fighter movie.
Street Fighter, yeah.
That's God. Jean-Claude Van Damme trying to do an American accent. Boy, did you fail miserably.
The only good thing in the Street Fighter movie was Raul Julia knowing he was about to die, leaving everything on screen, and that giving a performance that was actually good in an otherwise shitty movie.
And
not to mention how badly they crapped on the characters.
Was it his it was his kid who talked him into taking the role, wasn't it? If memory serves me correctly.
I think so. Yeah, he took it for the kids who like Street Fighter. They ruined so many Street Fighter characters in the course of that movie. I mean, for God's sakes, they picked Guile to be the main character. Who picks Guile? Ever?
I used to rock with Guile when I played Street Fighter.
The interesting thing is that, I always enjoyed Street Fighter more than Mortal Kombat in terms of playing it. So I was, so geared up for I'll be out here the movie, and boy was I disappointed. And then Mortal Kombat, the first one, I know we're way off topic here, but the first Mortal Kombat movie I liked. I seem to remember a lot of our friends liking it too. And then the second one, Again, what's Johnny Cage last? Like fucking 2 minutes? 2 minutes in the movie, he's dead? I think it's a different actor playing him too at that point.
It is. A lot of the originals didn't even come back for that piece of trash.
I don't blame them.
Hot garbage. Hot garbage. Don't even get me started on what they did to Ken Ryu.
Yeah,
Boy.
and
Honda
nowadays
was a videographer? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Chun-Li the reporter? Excuse me?
But at least it was Ming-Na Wen, so I couldn't complain about that.
No, I can complain about that.
At the time, I didn't care. I was like, okay, this works.
I can complain because Chun-Li should have been a badass.
That I'll say yes to. That, but clearly,
I digress.
Clearly, back in the 90s, they got it all wrong. And right now, we kind of have a golden age of video game adaptations with The Last of Us and Fallout being absolutely amazing. So, can't complain about that, really.
All right, I digress. This train has gone far enough off course. Let's put it back on. It is finally upon us. It is the week. Obviously, May the 4th is this weekend, which can only mean one thing. The 25th anniversary re-release of The Phantom Menace. While watching that film is certainly not high on my to-do list, it's on my to-do list. And yes, as we've said many times, I will be schlepping to the theater to watch this film. At least a quarter of me is doing it under protest. A quarter of me is doing it to see the films at the end. And then it's probably closer to 50% just to spend time with the friends and the kids and what have you, and just be amongst the group. 0% is to actually enjoy seeing this movie.
Oh, like the ending lightsaber duel isn't badass at all. No, not at all.
Okay, but the other 95% of the movie before it is the problem, Randy. So, okay, I'll give you that. 1% is to see the battle at the end. I'll give you that 1%. But I digress. It is upon us. Guys, where are you at for this? Are you obviously excited? Are you more excited to see the Acolyte footage? Where's it at? Like, where's the level at for this week?
I mean, for me, I remember seeing The Phantom Menace when it first came out. So it's good. But the cool thing is actually getting to take my wife, getting her to the theater to see Star Wars is always fun because she really gets into it. So for her to actually get to see this on the big screen, just to see her reaction to it is really what's going to really make this worth it. Obviously, I'm really excited for the Acolyte footage just because it's more than a trailer. We're actually going to get like roughly 13 minutes of actual footage to kind of set the mood and give us more an idea of the story. And so that's what I mean. I'm really excited for that, but getting to see the movie in theaters again, it's hard to think it's been 25 years already. Damn, where does time go? Shit.
I'm excited to see the Phantom Menace on the big screen for the first time ever. Again, I've only seen it at a drive-in movie theater. Screen quality was obviously not good. And I've said it for many, many years. It's the movie that's probably grown on me the most in the franchise. I'm really excited for it. I think the movie is way better than people give it credit for. And I'm excited to how it ties into the Acolyte, and obviously the Acolyte footage. I'm excited for my kids' response to it as well. And I'm just excited for, we have a pretty big Saturday planned just in general. And I'm excited to go out and have some fun and feel like a kid again. Oh, and we're supposed to go to this arcade, and it turns out that the arcade has a couple of Star Wars cabinets there.
Hell yeah.
I don't know which ones they are. They're not the Battle Pod ones. I don't know what ones they are, but I'm definitely looking forward to playing that too.
Well, maybe you get your trilogy arcade on then. You never know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing to you.
Oh,
You go.
the go ahead. Nothing. No, I think we're good to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. All right, that brings us to the final Star Wars of the day. Of course, that means it is time for Game of the Week. Last week, Randy, you had your choice. Week before that, I had my choice. So obviously, the choice falls to you, Sean. Take it away.
And this week's Game of the Week, Star Wars Super Bombad Racing 2 with Johnny and Jar Jar featured on the cover. Pre-order today to get a Darth M Count mobile. Order today.
Oh my god.
Could I have taken my time to make that look better? Yes. Would it have been less effective? Yes.
Dang.
I'll complete the trilogy next week and give Johnny some peace. Look, Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith was the game that they decided to release before releasing Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, the movie. So if you wanted to figure out exactly what happened in the movie, you went and played the game. Now, I'm going to lean on Randy here because I was hoping to do some investigating before this episode on it because I haven't played it in so many years, 2 decades. Close to 2 decades anyway. And I seem to remember that you could have it was sort of like not necessarily a side scroller, but it had a little bit of Jedi power battles to it where you could play through portions of the game with 2 players, with one person being Obi-Wan and the other person being Anakin at the beginning of the game. So you could play through that portion multiplayer. Then it was this weird game because it didn't play the same way all the way through. You had like that typical Mortal Kombat Street Fighter element to it at times. Like I specifically remember having to fight Mace Windu as Anakin or the newly anointed Darth Vader.
Yeah, the boss battles were like that.
But then you also had normal combat where you're going through the Jedi Temple in Order 66 and you're just mowing people down left and right. Like the game really did do its best to offer you a little bit of everything. And when this thing inevitably gets re-released next year on the PS5 for the 20-year anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, I will absolutely be picking this thing up again because I miss it. I'm not saying it delivers great. I'm not saying it's not choppy at times, but I definitely appreciated the effort they put in. Now, the alternate ending, they might have been able to put a little more effort into.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. I thought that it was kind of a neat little thing to sit there and have that added onto it. But you're right. They could have done a lot more with that. I did also like the idea of having the essentially the player versus player mode where you just had basically, your own little like Street Fighter type battle between each other. So I thought that was very interesting.
I remember.
Sorry, Kenny said he never played it. I hope you get a chance next year, man. I imagine they intend to re-release this thing.
I don't remember much about the game. Obviously, I remember the alternate ending. That's mostly the only thing that sticks out in my mind as the thing that I remember about this game. Because it was so different. Obviously, I didn't play it until after the movie had actually come out, until after I'd seen the movie. So, I didn't have any of the spoilers or anything that you would have got from playing the game before seeing the movie, which was beneficial for me, obviously. But that alternate
Anakin
ending
becomes Darth Vader? No way! Holy crap! I didn't see that coming.
I mean, I already knew that part, but just actually seeing sort of how the battles would play out.
Hold up! I need to interrupt this programming.
Oh shit!
For a special parenting alert. That was the wrong button. Or haven't used that one in a long time. So we're sitting there today explaining to Jensen about the movie he's going to go see in theaters this weekend. Now, he's watched like the High Republic cartoon show. He's watched select episodes of Bad Batch and Rebels and Clone Wars, but he's 4. And Jade goes, there's a little boy in the movie, and that's the little boy that grows up to be. And she's about to say it. I'm like, no! What are you doing? I have literally been on this channel and have talked about for years how I had so much Star Wars crap, like Luke and Leia and the father thing being spoiled. Like, you cannot do this here. You will get Shawn Michaels super kicked in the face.
Damn.
Not by me, because I can't lift my leg that high anymore, but by someone.
Damn, dude. I mean, no, good job on you for stopping that spoiler being dropped, especially on a kid that age. You don't need that out there just yet.
My heart, like I felt it. It was that close to being a 911 call. Jeez. She's laughing.
Nah, you did what you had to do, man. I commend you. I would have done the same thing. You're not alone. You can't have that stuff spoiled for a young mind.
I apologize, Johnny. Had to get that out there because up until that point, I had not remembered to bring it up.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. I mean, I know which revenge this is, but I don't even remember.
Something you said triggered it. I don't remember what.
I think I was talking about the alternate ending. I guess I can see how
the idea I know it's because of the Anakin becoming Vader, and that's kind of what sparked it.
Right. Yeah. The only thing the only thing I really remember is that alternate ending. Otherwise, I don't really remember much about the game or anything really specifically about it. Mostly because by that point in my life, movie games kind of all sucked.
To some degree, they did, yeah. I mean, that's not really changed since the Nintendo when you really think about it. unless you're not LJN laughing, joking, numbnuts. Unless you're not that. JVC did good with the Star Wars games.
But I digress. All right, guys, that's going to do it for Game of the Week. And I guess for the show as a whole. We're running late, so do you still want to do Unknown Regions, or do you want to save that?
We can do it briefly. Just initial thoughts.
All right, so then that's going to do it for the Star Wars portion of the Legacy of Star Wars podcast, brought to you by Fandom Empire. If you liked it, enjoyed it, head on down, click the like, thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff. Help us defeat the evil algorithm. We're going to take it to the outer regions for probably a couple minutes. It came out today? Or was it yesterday?
Yesterday. You sent it last night.
Was it yesterday when I sent that?
You sent it last night, yeah.
Well, I guess technically bright and early this morning. It was just after midnight. It was reported by IGN that there is a Game of Thrones MMORPG currently in development. I can't remember the studio behind it or anything that I saw at the time. I thought it was in the photo, but apparently it is not.
I think I checked it. It's like Nexon or something. No one with a very good track record, which is a little unfortunate.
Nexon? Oh, boy.
So, what do you guys think? Game of Thrones MMORPG. What are you excited? Are you like where you at for this?
It needs to be done right. That I mean, when you look at the property itself, there's a certain expectation of what you're going to get with that. Like I think Telltale Games did a great job with their Game of Thrones series. That with the story, everything, all your decisions you made had consequences. It was phenomenal. They knew what they had and they played it right. This is an MMO. We all know, I mean, there's only so many out there that have like serious longevity that have made it because everything's done just right. But with this property, I mean, as much as excited as I am for it, I find it hard to believe that they're gonna really give us what we deserve as fans for the MMO. I'm just gonna take a wait and see how things develop. You know, when more information comes out. Am I excited? Yes, but I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to be decent.
Until I hear of other studios being involved, I'm not expecting much, but I'm praying for something great because it deserves something great. The brand deserves something great. It has the financial might to deliver. I guess my issue is when you look in the details to when it's supposed to take place, feels a hell of a lot like the Telltale game that was out. Not that was a bad game. It was excellent, but it might as well take place exactly when that game took place. And interestingly enough, that game is unavailable unless you already own it. So maybe that's exactly when the game takes place. I don't know, but it deserves something great, and I'm not convinced it's going to be great, but I'm hopeful. I'm just not going to get my expectations up.
I mean, I am okay with it. I like the idea. It's set to be, I actually found the article, between seasons 4 and 5, or around seasons 4 and 5. So I think that's after the Telltale game. I think that was like season 2, season 3.
The Telltale game starts off right after the Red Wedding, very early on. But then by the time you're ending, it's basically in between 4 and 5, to my understanding. But it just now, to me, they should have been like, okay, so we're going to set it during season 4, in between 4 and 5, but you're going to have the ability to play through till the end of the show. I think that would intrigue people because there's a story element to it, obviously. But like, I just wish it was a big developer. I wish we knew there was going to be money behind it.
So there was, now that I've pulled this article up, it was updated today at IGN that Nexon is not developing a game, despite a report to the contrary yesterday. Nexon does not have anything in development based on Game of Thrones, company spokesperson told IGN. IGN understands the original Redanian intelligence report was referencing an already announced mobile game from Netmarble.
Okay, well, then that to me that would take the timeline off the table then, because I believe that's where that rumor came from, was the same place as the Nexon rumor in terms of where the story's going to take place.
So I don't know. It was, I guess, referencing the Netmarble game that was announced a couple years ago that they announced. So I guess there's nothing here.
I mean, if it's just announced, chances are, you know, they got preliminary stuff going on. They're trying to probably find someone to, you know, house it, because they're gonna need some good servers for that stuff. Because you know, if it's a well enough known company developer, you're gonna get plenty of players who are gonna just come in droves because of the story, the characters. Just, I mean, think about it's like, we'll take Sean's, you know, idea of like going out, starting, you know, we could say right after the Red Wedding, and push it out to the end of the series, where there could be in-game events where, you know, Daenerys comes through your city, stuff like that. You could easily fill the game world with a lot of just fun things to do and characters to interact with, and The potential's there. It's just getting the right developer, getting getting the putting the right amount of money into it so that you can get, and it's a story. There has to be a solid story regardless, especially if it's not directly in, your long lost Lannister or whatever. It's just something that can at least make you feel connected to the world.
Yeah, I need to know way more about who's making it and how much money they're putting into it, right? Like, because it's deserving of significant money. It's deserving of big time treatment. And if it ends up being something big, then obviously I'm game. I'd be the first guy sitting here going, "Hey guys, let's do this. Let's do something with this."
Make me build a brand new PC just so I can actually play this fucking thing. Let's go.
I would hope that it's going to be for consoles.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like,
I
make me want to go out and pre-order. Make me want to get that mega bundle.
A hype, for sure.
Well, Netmarble is a mobile studio. They're not.
One of their Marvel games.
I tracked down the original article, the Redanian intelligence article, and they've updated that it's not Nexon. It's instead the Netmarble game. It is the mobile game that was announced. So this is a mobile game. It is a mobile MMORPG game.
Wait, what?
It's a mobile game.
Then I'm out. Who gives a shit? Sorry, when you shared that last night, I was under the opinion of...
Well, everyone was at the time. It's been updated today. I'm not inherently turned off by this. The Star Wars game I was talking about earlier, that was a Netmarble game. It was Force Arena. Because I've pulled up images. That's the one I was talking about earlier that I played a lot. So Netmarble actually does do decent games. I've played the 7 Deadly Sins game since it came out 4 years ago. I still play it every now and again. So they actually do have quality mobile games.
Marvel Future Fight is another one that they do. Yep. That's pretty decent.
Yep.
So they're not a horrible mobile developer by any shit.
No, so they do put money behind their project as far as mobile. And like the 7 Deadly Sins game came out in 2020, and they're still pushing new content frequently. So it's not, if the game is successful, they will still continue pushing it. So I don't inherently hate the idea of this. I was excited when Netmarble announced it originally, but it certainly changes what you're expecting from an MMORPG to a mobile MMORPG, because it's obviously a completely different game. So I'll still play this one.
Well, and there's actually, but think of this, there's a couple of games out there that started as mobile MMORPGs that did make it to console, like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail. Those did start as mobile MMORPGs and are free to play on console currently. So it's not impossible. You just have to, as long as the popularity is there and the want is there, then they'll put it out there on console. You don't have to worry about that.
Let me tell you, I think Johnny had the quote earlier in the show. I forget what exactly it was about, but he said it wasn't made for him. It's not his thing. He won't. Star Wars Hunters.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate this, since this has gone from being potentially something great to something who gives a shit for me. I don't care about mobile games. I don't have time for them. I don't work the type of job that allows me to do it. There's more of a chance of me playing this game than that game. Dexter's Cantina Simulator, right there. Pre-order today to get a Darth M Count digital mug. That was the one I was originally going to use today, and then I switched to that. That still doesn't dive into next week's, just for some fun. But not digital games or mobile games are just not my thing.
You need something to do while you shit.
Yep, mine is Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle.
That's where I do most of my mobile gaming, is phone in hand on the crapper. But I digress.
And on
that's more information than anyone needed to know.
Yeah.
A few hours later,
Let's be
can't
honest.
feel my legs.
Let's be honest. 90% of guys who play mobile games is while they're on the toilet, so they understand.
I do.
So, I digress. On that visual image that I hope you all enjoyed, it is time for us to say goodnight. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, head on down, click like, subscribe, all that stuff you can do. Leave a comment. Help us defeat the evil algorithm. Do you play mobile games on the toilet? Let us know down below. And if you want to, and if you want to see your name featured on our sponsors and patrons page, head on over to patreon.com/Fandom Empire, where you can become a patron or a sponsor or not entirely, whatever you choose to do. So for all of us here at Legacy of Star Wars, for all of us at Fandom Empire, we'll see you next week. May the 4th be with you all. We'll see you next week.
For if one is remembered by a friend, one is never truly gone.